Hey guys, this week in social studies we're discussing family history. Let's think about that word history. It's written here on our whiteboard. It's one of our vocabulary words. History is the story of people, places, and events from your past. And what does the word past mean? You've heard that word before when we've talked about past tense verbs. This is something that you've already done. It has already happened. So usually when we're talking about this in reading class, we add an ed ending to those verb words to show that you already did it, whether it was like a minute ago, a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. If it has already happened, it happened in the past. You'll hear me use those two words a lot in this lesson, history and past. All right, now let's see how we can learn about our family's history. Let's look at our big book right here so we can discuss that. We see a grandfather discussing with his grandson what life was like when he was younger. So if you want to learn more about what your parents' life was like or your grandparents or other relatives, you can look at pictures from the past to see what their life was like. So look at some old photographs. You also could ask maybe to see some things that would represent what their life was like while they were growing up. So I bet from this you can tell what grandfather did as a job for a living when he was younger. He was a firefighter, right? So he's showing his grandson, this is what I wore. Okay, this is the hat I wore. This is the suit that I wore. So these are two things that you can do to learn about your family's history. It says you can learn about your family history, look at things from the past, ask questions about the past, and listen to family stories. So to help you generate some questions about what you could ask your mom and dad or some other relatives or your grandparents, I'm going to attach an interview paper so that you can practice asking and have some ways to start conversations with your grandparents and your mom and dad to start asking about what life was like for them when they were younger. That will help you find more out about yourself, and it will also help you find more out about your family that maybe you didn't know. All right. When I look at this, I think about how I found out a lot about my family history when I was growing up. When I would go to my grandparents' house, they had two big pictures hanging on their wall. My grandma had a picture of her as a baton twirler, and my grandfather had a picture of him with a briefcase, and he was headed towards the factory. There were two pictures that were made for them, and when I would see them, I would say, tell me about this. You know, what does this picture show? And my grandmother would say she was a wonderful baton twirler, and she practiced that a lot in high school. And then my grandfather said about the briefcase, the business picture that I would ask about. He worked for Pontiac in Michigan for the car company, and my grandma would eventually too, but he loved doing that type of business and you know, working at the factory. So I loved to ask them about pictures they had around their house. We also would go to the attic to get some boxes and just go through some items to try to find out what life was like for my parents and for them. And they would show me some different things. That includes pictures, scrapbooks. They would have some of their items that were left over that they saved that were their favorite things from when they were growing up. I know I've saved some favorite things of mine for Brady to go through someday if he wanted to. And just to kind of give you an idea of what you could look at, I went ahead and before this lesson, I got out some of my pictures. I keep them separated by age from when I was growing up in this little, you know, case right here. So I want to show you some pictures, and pictures tell a lot of stories just simply by looking at a picture. And then you can ask about the picture to get ideas about your family history. Here's me as a baby. And then you can see as I start to grow up, I like to play with people and blocks. That's why they're in my pocket there. And from a very young age, I started to practice being a teacher. I would always teach my sisters. I was the oldest of 4 girls, and I always loved to teach them different things and pretend to be the teacher. Here's my grandparents. Okay. There's my sisters and I as we're growing up. That's me and Katie, Natalie, and Becca. Okay. And I love to cheer. And that was from a young age too. And I would do that as long as I could possibly do it until I was a senior in high school, all the way up through. Here's my sisters and I growing. You can tell we're getting bigger and older, and that's at a Christmas. And we've got my friends here. And when I had a short haircut in that picture, and this was at a church function, we were staying the night at the church. And here's a blizzard of 93 with my sisters. Boy, does that tell a story, and boy, does that bring back a lot of memories when I think about that time. And here's a picture of me in high school as a cheerleader, a picture of me graduating college, and here is a picture of my first group, my first year as a teacher, our first Halloween party that I ever participated in at Frankstown. So if you simply look at pictures, that will tell you a whole lot. But let's go over, because it says, what ways can you learn about your family history? Let's go over all the ways that we talked about. You can look at pictures, okay? You can ask to see some items, and that may require you going to the attic or somewhere where you store things to go through different containers to see some favorite items from the past. You can also ask them to tell you a story from their past. All right, so those would be the best ways that we could learn about our family history. You could also maybe read a book from that time period. So what I want you to do, what we assigned for you this week, just look at the attached paper. It says a family interview, and you can decide on whoever you would like to interview to find some more things out about them, which in turn may help you find some things out about yourself as well. You can use those as discussion points. You don't have to write on that paper. Mom and Dad can do it, or you can just use it as discussion points for the assignment, okay? All right, thanks for learning about family history with me, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.